back to another episode of the Unsettled. This is episode 4, and yeah, thanks a lot for really getting involved in these. We've had quite a lot of comments, quite a lot of likes, and our views are going really high on these. And I'm having a lot of fun doing them. You're probably, like I said, probably fucking hating them.
No,
you're enjoying them. You're enjoying them.
I'm enjoying them.
Are you sure?
I'm enjoying the information.
You're enjoying the mystery part, aren't you? It'd be like we become detectives overnight. So obviously this is episode 4, and we're going to investigate the case of the Sodder children. Glad I said that correctly. I said that completely wrong. But yeah, we're investigating the case of the Sodder children. Basically, give you a quick rundown. This has been like an ongoing, I guess, mystery. I guess that's the best way to explain it. It's been an ongoing mystery for the last God knows how many years. But basically, it caught my attention, so I informed young William about this, and he was like, "Oh, I'll have a look." So he had a look, and then he thoroughly got engrossed, and he wrote pages. But obviously, I take the lead on this side, and he has fun on the podcast, which I happily enjoy ruining. It's the best way it goes, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the case of the missing Sodder children. We're going to run through basically the story, let you know what actually happened on that night, and then we're going to go through other little bits to try and piece together what actually happened, and how this has kind of remained unsolved. It's literally clueless.
Yeah.
Every time you think about it, you do come to loose ends. You get so far, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, you get to a dead end, and you follow another.
You're like, fuck it, try again.
Well,
you're literally like, fuck it, try again. But the way I kind of see it is this part is where I become the detective, and he also becomes a detective, and we still don't come to any conclusion. No. That's usually what happens. That's what's happened with the last 3. So yeah, like I said, this is now going to be number 4.
Well, then we do bring up good points. That not necessarily that other people might not have been aware of.
Yeah, I mean we find other little bits that kind of tie in that could sway your thought a different way. So basically, this is the case of the Sodder children who went missing in 1945, the night of Christmas or Christmas Eve. Just that little twinkle in the sky of Santa coming over. A fire destroyed the Sodder family home in West Virginia. It was owned by George and Jenny, and 9 of their 10 children. Now, one of their children was away studying at this point. I haven't looked into whether he was male or female. I just know he wasn't at home. He was the oldest of the family. No one really knows much about this, considering the main focus is on, as I'm about to get into, the children who went missing or died. Clear the throat, start again. Okay, so, like I said, it was owned by George and Jenny, and 9 of their 10 children. A fire broke out on Christmas Eve. George and Jenny, and 4 of the 9 children, escaped. The bodies of the other children have never been found. Which now, obviously, you think, okay, so there was a fire, wiped out their house, and now you're thinking, okay, well, they must have got trapped in the blaze, right? I mean, that's what most people would think.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't get... You're probably thinking, well, why didn't you go back in and get them? He tried. He did try. I mean, he got 4 of his children out, who was Sylvia, Marion, John, and George Jr. It was Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, who were allegedly still inside during the flames. And they all shared bedrooms between them all. Yeah. George actually broke back into the house while it was on fire. And he tried to get towards his children. The staircase was on fire. He couldn't go up the stairs.
No.
So he went back out into the front. Tried to start in his trucks. Just to get him close enough so he could possibly climb in through the window. I mean, you could see the lights were on.
Yeah.
He just couldn't hear the screams of his children. And he tried to start in his trucks, but they wouldn't start.
It's a bit weird, though.
What?
If you think, you can't hear the screams of your children that are trapped.
Yeah, or they're caught in the fire,
or
burning.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's very.
He all he knew was that these 5 children were inside.
Inside somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. However else he was going to get into the house, I have no idea. He couldn't get up to the staircase because that was caught ablaze.
Yeah.
So he tried to start his trucks, they wouldn't start. Whether he flooded the engine, whether there was...
Like in a blind panic or something.
I mean, you're panicking, your kids are in
yeah.
there. I mean, you've got to be like, oh shit, got to go in, got to get my children. You know, you're going to flood the engine. He went running to the side of his house to look for his ladder. He couldn't find it. His ladder was also gone. Between all of this, he could actually see like the flames in the house because all the lights were on.
Yeah.
You know, your
It's
house
now
is
engulfed.
your house is ablaze.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like thinking like, shit, your children are trapped inside. You've got 4 outside. You've got 5 inside. You're like, how do I get in? How the fuck do I get in? So during this process of the fire being scorching through the whole house, one of his daughters, Marion, ran to the neighbour's house and tried calling the fire department operator. Here's where it gets bit weird. They never responded to the call.
Really?
They never responded to the call. Basically, George told her to run to the neighbours. She ran over. They tried calling the fire brigade or, the fire trucks or whatever it is in the USA. Couldn't get through to the operator. So what the neighbour did was get in the car and drive to the fire department to try and alert that their house is on fire.
Alert someone, yeah.
Yeah, but they also, another neighbour also tried calling and they still couldn't get through to the fire department. But this is Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Okay? It's Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Alright? So
like, you could think like...
there might be a couple of people on shift. They might be having a few drinks.
Yeah.
I mean, alright, worse things happen at usually lovely events or lovely times.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the neighbour drove to the town and told the fire chief. His name was F.J. Morris. He plays a significant part in this. The fire department is 2.5 miles away. They didn't get to the house until 8 a.m. 7 hours after the fire broke out. What the fuck were they doing? 7 hours. But 7 hours. I explained to you, me and you could get on a plane, fly to West Virginia and piss the fucking fire out by the time they got there.
Yeah.
Like, how does it take them 7 hours? This is a fire department with children allegedly inside, and it takes them 7 hours. Like, what the fuck? I also wrote that down, what the fuck? See?
He did.
I was like, what the fuck? I'm writing notes. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? So the house was, by this point, ashes by the time the fire brigade or fire trucks turned up. But yeah, like, I've also wrote down, what shit staff in the fire department takes 7 hours to get there and they're 7 hours late? Like,
You've literally said, I could have got onto a plane, flew to West Virginia,
and spat on it and pissed on it
to
put the fire out before they got there. I thought I'd write my jokes down, alright?
Fair enough.
It makes sense, I know where I am.
Fair enough.
So basically, the house was now ashes, burnt to the ground, like, no children in sight. No children apart from the 4 that escaped.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking like, oh shit, like, it's 7 hours for a fire department.
Yeah, even that.
To me, like,
it's weird.
Wait, to me, just the fire department area, it makes me think, like, what?
Who did they piss off?
Who knows? Who knows who they pissed off? But either way, I'm now thinking 7 hours to get to a fire, and they've already alerted people that there could be children trapped inside, and it takes them 7 hours. How? No, don't no one in this town do their fucking job?
Obviously not.
Well, we'll see. So they began to search for ashes, search through the ashes for bones, like remaining, anything of the 5 children, as they were presumed dead.
Yeah.
Right. The fire chief said the fire, I guess so hot, it could have burned their bones to ashes. It could have, but here we go into a bit more of a scientific approach, I guess. There was no smell of burning flesh in the house. Now I'm guessing this fire department, whether they get there in fucking time or not, can smell a dead body and they know what it smells like. By this point, mate, it takes them 7 hours to get there. They've definitely smelt a dead body. You see what I mean?
Or smelt something, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, apparently the fire took them down. Took down the children. And then the fire department classed it as bad wiring. They said it was an electrical fault.
Yeah.
Now, as you've also managed to write down, George and his wife Jenny had their house. Well, they built their house, and they had their wiring checked. Like, they had it checked a couple of weeks prior to this fire. Right? So already you're thinking like, okay, well, it could have been an electrical fault. But it doesn't explain how George could see all the lights on from the outside with the fire. Because he was trying to look for his children. If it was an electrical fault, mate, the fuse box would have gone.
Everything would have gone.
There wouldn't be no lights on at all.
No.
None at all. This is weird already. 7 hours for a fire department, can't find your children, there's no bones or nothing remaining of them.
Well, as you've written down, and as you well know, it takes a very high degree of temperature.
You will find out the temperature in a second, young man.
Fair enough. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Right, we're on to something. So, a week later, the coroner did death certificates of the 5 children. A week later, he was just like, nope, they're dead. The coroner said, nope, they died. That's it. End of. You 5 children died.
That's not really unheard of, though, because...
No, but a whole week! And they've already rummaged around the ashes looking for bones and they can't find any. And it's like, no, your children are dead. Like, fob them off.
Yeah, but it does take ages. It takes a while for that thing to go through. Like, we was waiting for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is a whole week just to simply go, yep, they're dead, bye. All 5 children with no real investigation taking place just yet. Just yet. So, after, the family have now thought, okay, we lost our children in a fire, George decides to literally block up the basement, like block it all up completely, fill it up with cement and concrete. And George began covering up the house with dirt and made a memorial for his 5 children. Like, now he's thinking, oh shit, they must be dead. Okay, my 5 children.
It's kind of like he's come to the realisation.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh shit, my children died, I've now got to live with this. They died of a fire, so...
And they never rebuilt the house.
No, they didn't. It's still a memorial garden today. Like, if you live in West Virginia and you can find the address, like, seriously, go there, take a picture and send it to us. I'd actually be happy to see the memorial garden, to be honest. I'd probably go there just to see the memorial garden. I think that'd be pretty cool. So, as the weeks progressed, George and his wife Jenny began to suspect the children were kidnapped. Now, kidnapping. It makes you wonder why. Why would they now think their children were kidnapped and they didn't burn in the fire? Like, obviously, if you're a parent, you want evidence that you've lost your children.
Oh yeah.
There's no evidence. You want concrete evidence, not just a coroner's report.
No.
But I guess for me to go a little bit further into this, we need to look at George's past and what he said about Italy. Now, have you got your notes ready for the Italy part?
I have indeed.
Oh, so yeah, basically the family left Italy, decided to set up their home in West Virginia, but during this process...
Yeah, so during this process, obviously, George had ties with the Sicilian mafia in his past.
We don't know what the fuck this guy did in his past.
We can't find anything about what happened before he went to USA.
Yeah. I mean, whatever happened in Italy, they fled.
It's gone.
Yeah, they fled.
Yeah.
Right.
So, already to me, it's... As soon as you mention some sort of mafia, then you think, oh, okay. And it takes a bit of a different turn.
It changes it from a house fire and it makes the kidnapping, you kind of like turn the page and be like, oh, okay. Okay, it gets a bit more interesting. We dig a bit more dirt up. Not from the basement, but we dig a bit more dirt up.
So, like, perhaps, or what it's been said, perhaps it was more of a retaliation.
Right.
For basically George's outspoken criticism of Benito Mussolini.
Right.
And the fascist government of his native Italy.
Right. So basically he spoke badly about Italy, possibly after he left.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, we don't know what George was into or what he got caught up into in Italy.
Yeah.
I mean, we did try and dig. We can't find anything.
I had a look for if they had any like civil actions or something
that would have a tie.
Yeah,
or
a
a
war
bond.
or something.
Yeah.
To say that obviously they need to get out. There was a lot of Italian immigrants coming over.
Yeah.
But they just put it down to like wanting work.
Yeah, because the USA at the time was thriving with businesses. Yeah, and a lot of Italians were becoming grocers, greengrocers.
Yeah,
a
mechanics.
A lot of Italians were coming over, and they were actually just building up greengrocer shops everywhere. I mean, I'm obviously the USA has many varied foreign people, but I think at this time it could be a bit swayed that a lot of people didn't want them there.
No, it's like anywhere really. You do always get that certain.
You get a separation.
You get a separation.
Even in the UK, you get a separation. You get a separation between Chinese, and everyone else. They all seem to stick together. But obviously, George had fled Italy for some reason, and we can't
pretty rapidly. Apparently.
Yeah, we can't find out
why or how.
But anyway, so that gives you a bit of George's past. Now, I tried looking up Jenny's past, and it's very similar to George's. It just says that she fled with her family. Yeah. But obviously, the family right now are now thinking kidnapping. And they also think that their children aren't dead. And now they're also thinking that the fire could have been deliberately started as a distraction. Now, I suppose, like, if you're a parent, you're going to start thinking of every possible...
Yeah, you would sit down and you would list...
Yeah. You've got to be like, right, we can't find our children's bodies or bones. How did the fire start? Why did the coroner just write them off so quickly?
Yeah.
Why did it take the fire department 7.5 hours to get there, despite it being Christmas Eve? Right, warranted, everyone likes to celebrate, but still.
Yeah, but not that much. Like, they've still got a job to do.
Like I said, me and you could have got there quicker. Right? But it's, and maybe they were thinking, like, at this point, it wasn't faulty wiring. Now, obviously, as we said, George had his house checked a couple of weeks prior to this.
And signed off.
Yeah, and it was all signed off that the wiring was fine. Another real part of the thing, like, I guess the evidence put in front of us, was the fact that all the lights were on, like we just said. Like, all the lights were on.
Whilst, during, and I wouldn't say after, because obviously it was rubble by after, but it was definitely... It's well documented that George and Jenny both themselves gave a statement that all of the lights were on before and during the fire. So if it was an electrical fault, like all the lights would have been off, as we both talked about earlier.
The main switch would have blown. The main switch would go, and here comes the other weird thought process to this. It's Christmas Eve, right? George and Jenny's children are awake listening for Santa Claus. One of his daughters hears a loud bang, then the telephone line rings. If it's faulty wiring, mate, the telephone line ain't gonna ring. You ain't gonna have no electric in the house. His daughter woke up to the noise and the phone ringing. She went downstairs, she answered the phone, she didn't hear anything, but she thought, why are all the lights on? George and Jenny always turn the lights off. Yeah, but she was wondering why the lights were on. So here we go with another idea that someone could have been in the house and she heard that bang, and now she's thinking like, okay, do you go to bed and leave the lights on?
No.
No one does. It gets a bit weird. But before the fire took place on Christmas Eve, there was a life insurance man that visited George and Jenny in their home. Did you find any information on this?
I did, but I couldn't find any information on him.
Okay, right, yeah. The information on this life insurance man is a bit scarce. But he arrived at George and Jenny's house before the fire, 2 weeks before the fire. Right? He asked if George and Jenny had life insurance.
Conveniently, just after they'd had their wiring checked, which is along the same line, isn't it?
Yeah. But life insurance men do knock on the door in the States. We get Jehovah's Witnesses over here. Yeah. So, and we get people saying, hey, do you want to support this animal foundation? We're not today. Not today.
Not today.
And I'm guessing George just didn't give a shit. I mean, at this point, like in his life, I mean, he's left Italy. He
You
started.
wouldn't really think of out of the ordinary. You know what I
No,
mean?
you're not gonna. I'm not being funny. How do you react when someone knocks on the door and tries selling you something?
Myself.
Yeah, you're like,
I
fuck
just
off.
close the door.
Yeah, exactly. So
Sometimes I listen to it, but if I'm bored.
I tell him fuck off. Quite simple. Don't believe in it. I've got my own pets to look after. Goodbye. But at this point, like I said, there was a life insurance salesman, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
He knocked on George's door, and George declined any type of life insurance. But I will say this: the life insurance man said it will protect your house from fires, it will protect your children, and it will also, give a bit of money. It'll build up your life insurance, basically, if anything was to happen to you, your family is safe. George declined. He obviously said, like, why the fuck do I want life insurance? Why? Why would I want it?
But then he could also, like, obviously, this bloke would, if he was a life insurance salesman, then he would get commission, so he would be...
He's trying to be pushy with his life insurance.
Yeah, he would be pushy.
Right? But George, like I said, declined. At this point, the life insurance man became aggressive, upset, and very angry towards George. And I will use this in this sense. I will go, and I quote, this is what the insurance life insurance man said.
Insurance salesman, yeah.
Yep. Your goddamn house is going up in smoke. Your children will be destroyed. As George got angry and slammed the door on him. And I also wrote here, yep, we solved it. It was him. That's it, what we doing? Let's leave. Why would that man become so irate to say that? Like, your goddamn house is going up in smoke. Coincidentally, it did.
Maybe it was just maybe it was just convenience.
And your children will be destroyed.
Mm.
That's a big coincidence. Already now you're seeing a couple of flags coming up.
Mm.
I'm seeing flags. Why would they have a life insurance salesman turn up at their house randomly? I know it does happen, but still, it's randomly. Why would this life insurance man, like I said, and I quote, your goddamn house is going up in smoke, your children will be destroyed. It sounds such a threat.
It does.
Because George didn't want life insurance. Like, this guy, obviously,
Yeah, but as I said, they go off of commission back then.
Yeah.
They still do. It's
but
just more of...
Why do you have to get this irate?
Maybe he was just having like a really, really bad week. There's only so many doors that's going to slam in your face before you're like, you know what? No, you fucking having it.
Yeah, but to use what I said he used. Like, your goddamn house is going up in smoke and your children will be destroyed. Like I said, I even put it in like little quotations. I was like, I have to write this down because it works. Exactly. I may also like to add, a couple of weeks before this life insurance salesman turned up, one of the sons noticed a car parked outside and it was actually watching the children play in the front garden. So to me, you have the house being watched, you have the home phone being rung on the night of a fire. This life insurance man's fucking literally just said the whole fucking story in a shortened term.
Yeah.
How much? I've got 4. Well, we're about to enter some more. I think we are about to enter some more. Okay, so after the fire, and obviously we've just given you some really, really curious and suspect things to think about.
Maybe it's too convenient.
Maybe. I mean, you could be swaying that way, mate, but I already see the signs happening.
No.
I mean, for all we know, this life insurance man could work for the fucking fire brigade. He's like, oh, fuck off. I ain't helping them. I told them their house was going up in smoke and their children was going to be destroyed.
This is how we're going to do it.
Exactly. 7.5 hours. Fucking hell. So, obviously, these are coincidences that happened just before the fire.
Yeah.
So, the daughter awoke to the phone call being...
The phone call.
She heard a loud thud. All the lights are on during the fire. You had the life insurance salesman. 7.5 hours for a fucking fire truck to turn up. And someone's been watching the children, which one of the children actually told their dad that I have, like, there's people, I mean, now watching them get off the bus and play in the front garden. To me, it sounds like they're being stalked right now.
Oh yeah, it does sound it. To me, that's what that sounds like.
It sounds like the family is being watched.
They're being watched.
Yeah, they're being watched and they're being honed in on. Now, this life insurance man, like you said, would have got commission. He would have got some money, but to say these exact words.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like me saying, I'm going to kick your fucking face in, and then the next day, like next week, someone kicks your face in, and then you're like, it was you said it. Like, you're going to point the finger at me because I've said it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. To me, it's too convenient to say those words.
Yeah, and then it happens.
And then it happens.
It's literally like
that's karma kicking you in the arse. Like,
it's either you should have took that life insurance, but you never did. So, like I said, all this had happened previously. You had the fire. The 5 children are missing, kidnapped, dead. We have no idea at this point. But already you got these occurrences taking place. One of the daughters who visited the memorial site found a hard rubber object in the yard, which couldn't be explained of what it was. Like in the memorial garden, she found a hard rubber object. Now George, being the man that he was, knew exactly what it was, and it was a napalm pineapple bomb, and it was homemade. He took it to the police station. Guess what? They dismissed it. They said no, that couldn't have done it. Who the fuck lives in this town? Who does their job? Hey, look, we found something which could have triggered the fire. No, it's not that. Your children are dead.
It's an electrical fault. Get over it.
Exactly.
Move on.
Like, clearly the house was set on fire. It was set on fire.
Yeah.
You can't deny this. So, Jenny began, George's wife, she began experimenting by burning animal bones. She began literally thinking like, okay, well, how hot does the fire need to be? To burn bones to nothing.
Yeah.
Like, literally nothing.
Disappear.
Yeah. So, she wanted to do it to see if her children's bones would have been, distinguished. Like, literally just gone. Disintegrated. However you want to put it. But it seemed impossible because bones are left behind even after being burned at 2,000 degrees. So there's your answer to how these bones should have been there.
If I'm not mistaken, which I probably am, but I'm pretty sure that napalm burns at 2005.
So already then you're kind of thinking there should be bones. There should be bones.
There should be bones, because even, not being funny, like even a homemade napalm bomb, it will never be able to. You would never be able to get the stuff without alerting certain people.
Yeah, but not being funny. This is what This bomb itself could have been what his daughter heard before the phone rang.
Yeah.
So she heard a loud thud. She went running down the stairs, all the lights were on, then the phone rings. It seems like someone's checking to see if they're home. You don't ring a home phone and expect, are you in? Are you not in? They could have left their lights on, who knows? We'll ring them at night time and check.
Yeah.
Yeah? Like if you ring and someone answers, then they put the phone down, you're like, meh. But obviously his daughter answered the phone, then it cut off. So it seems like they were checking to see if they were home, and she heard that loud thud. It gets a bit weird.
It's already weird.
This is the part that makes it a bit more weird.
Okay.
So during their investigation, where they were like rummaging and trying to like look for bones, they were coming across household objects and appliances, which would have burned in a fire, like a kettle, perhaps. It would have burned in the fire if it was hot enough. It would be melted, it's plastic, or metal, it would have just shrunk. They were finding household appliances still in the memorial garden.
So it was localised.
Which then
whatever it was localised, or a small...
Which then makes me believe that the house went up in smoke, like literally just went up in flames, but it wasn't hot enough to burn household appliances, which means therefore it wouldn't have burned the bones. No. The bones would still be there. Yeah. Which is what I put here. I put bones should have been left. Yeah. Yeah, see? You were going to look at that now. Right, here's where it gets a bit weird. Okay. Here's the weird part. Sightings of the children occurred that night. is, right? A woman claiming to have seen George and Jenny's kids that night as the fire was happening. So while the house is on fire, a woman has claimed that she saw her kids. But where did she see them? Where do you think she saw them? Don't say running through the woods.
No, there was one occurrence where they saw one getting on a train.
Yep. But this is the night of the fire happening.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. A woman, 50 or so miles from the house, who did tourist stops, told the police she saw the children with 2 men and 2 women. Also, the car had a Florida license plate. That night of the fire, she saw the children. So already you're now thinking like, kidnapping. It's kidnapping, it's got to be.
Yeah.
Right now it's got to be. So a hotel in Charleston, a woman told police she also saw the children. A week after the fire, they was with Italian foreign males and females. Sounds like a kidnapping. Sounds like a kidnapping. So during this point, they, like, you can imagine, George and Jenny, you know, proud parents, they've got 4 children. They still don't know what happened to the 5. Everyone's declaring them dead and to stop looking. But George didn't. George carried on. He saw a photo a few years later in a New York paper of a student. One looked like his daughter. He drove all the way to New York, traced her down, knocked on the door, but when he knocked on the door, he said, "Can I just speak to your daughter?" The parent said, "No," and slammed the door. Bit weird. This is a father persistent in looking for his children. I mean, they spent a good, I think it was like a good 40 years looking for their children.
Yeah. Yeah, they've also had a letter.
Yep.
With a photograph sent to them.
Yep.
From obviously people that they've been asking.
Yep.
To look, and to like keep an eye out, kind of thing. And he was. It was one of the males.
Yep. It was one of the males, and it was like, what was it, like 10, 20 years later?
Yeah.
Yep.
He was dressed in a fine pinstripe suit.
Yep.
With a pinstripe moustache. But he was a spitting image of George.
Yep. He looked exactly like the childhood photo as well. He had the same thing about the lip. Yep. Same lips, same eyes, same dark eyebrows.
Yeah.
Literally.
But he was very well dressed.
Yep.
Very healthy and.
See, to me, this is a bit weird. Like, they saw sightings of the children the night of the fire. The fire department are declaring them dead.
So the police just didn't follow them up?
No, the police are not likely to. But here's where it gets a bit more weird. So 2 years later after the fire, George and Jenny got the FBI involved, and the police and fire department refused to talk to them.
Yep.
What the fuck is going on in this town?
So yeah, the state and federal investigated yielded no new information.
No.
For the case, so the family, they basically told them to drop it.
Yeah. But
stop looking.
But like I said, they got the FBI involved.
Yeah.
Now this is where, like, I'm thinking, like, there's some shady shit going on in this town. There is some shady shit. Shady fucking shit. They then turned to a private investigator. Do you know his name?
I don't know his name, no.
His name is C.C. Tinsley. He sounds like something out of the Pink Panther, to be honest. Okay, the jury, who agreed the house was a fire accident, also had the salesman of the life insurance on the court to say it was an electrical fault.
Yeah, he was on
the jury. Yeah. What the fuck?
It's a very small town.
So basically, they had to declare that the house was actually caused by an electrical fault. And on the jury was the life insurance salesman that said he's going to burn down the fucking house.
I bet he felt well guided.
Mate, they've got the person in court already. He ain't doing nothing. What the fuck? Right, here's another bit of weird information. So C.C. Tinsley, the private investigator, he interviewed the townspeople, and not many of them spoke about this. They refused to actually talk to the private investigator, right? But he spoke to F.J. Morris, the chief of the fire department, right? chief then pulled him aside and said he found a heart and he buried it at the scene of the fire in a box. Why the fuck? It gets weird. C.C. Tinsley, that private investigator who was digging up more shit than probably what he needed to, found the box, and inside it was beef liver. And it hadn't been in a fire. It had been placed there. Apparently, F.J. Morris, the fire chief, said it would make the family then think their children have died. It's to give them some closure, allegedly.
Some closure and just to...
But you're planting shit at the scene of a crime!
I know.
The fuck?
It's bad.
So, in August that year, they got in contact with a pathologist, Jenny did, as they found some bones.
Yeah.
Right? They found some bones in the dirt, which could have been their children, but George had already raked over so much mud throughout the whole area to make that memorial garden. Right? The bones belonged to a 16-year-old, yet George had no one over 16. No one. And the bones hadn't been exposed to fire, so therefore these bones that they had come across were just binned. It weren't relevant. Who the fuck? There's a dead body there now as well. What the fuck is going on? Accordingly to the West Virginia case, and the Capitol building of West Virginia said the case was now closed after these bones were found. And they also told George and Jenny it was hopeless and your children are dead. This sounds fucking weird. It sounds like the whole town are in on this.
It does.
It sounds fucking freaky. To me, like, if you've just lost your children, it sounds like the whole town is covering up some mass murder shit. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Obviously, going back to, I don't know if you covered this.
Go on.
But the private investigator wasn't just satisfied with...
I covered one investigator, there's another one, but go on.
Yeah, there is another one. So he passed it over once, obviously.
Yeah.
He couldn't really do anything.
No, there's not much you can do.
No.
Other than finding a liver in a box.
No, but one did pick up the scent, maybe, of obviously following the Sicilian mafia route.
Yeah. So they did look into this then.
So one of them went over to Italy.
Yep. This is the other investigator, but go ahead.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So then he started interviewing. So George basically let slip, kind of.
Yeah.
That he used to go to a church. And this church he felt safe in. He felt that he could go to. Yeah. When this private investigator went to that church, he was told that there was no knowledge of a George.
Yeah.
But there was knowledge of a Jenny.
Right.
And this Jenny would often come to the church with her children. Yeah. Stay after hours, where the children would be cared for while she was talking to like the vicar.
Getting on with her Catholic or churchy beliefs.
Or what, it just, and there was no mention ever of a husband. Yeah. So obviously this investigator was like, this is a bit weird.
Bit weird.
So he went to George's hometown, where he originally came from. Yeah. But they don't give a name, which was really frustrating.
I don't think they were going to be honest.
No. So he went there. He went to the house that George used to live in. Yeah. And no word of a lie, it was. So there was the house next door. Yeah. Perfectly fine. Yeah. Not touched. Yeah. The house the other side, perfectly fine, not touched, but there was no house in the middle. Okay. Like, his address was just
non-existent. Okay. Well, you kind of touched on something, which made me think that if the children were kidnapped, they were possibly kidnapped by people in the church who they knew and said, quick, come with us, thrown into a car while the house is on fire. The kids are going to be scared.
Oh, yeah.
Put in the car, taken away.
Mm-hmm.
Your investigator you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
did you know something? He never returned.
Yep.
He never returned. He went over to Italy and never came back, so George and Jenny were literally clueless about what he had found. Other than his documents, which he'd already told them about, more or less.
Yeah, he had, what's it called? There's basically a video tape recorder.
A dictaphone.
A dictaphone,
yeah.
In his room,
Mm-hmm.
with his bags, all of his belongings,
Yep.
And his notebook
Yep.
that he carried everywhere. But there was his notebook, the dictaphone,
Yep.
but all of his belongings were still in his suitcase.
Yeah.
But he wasn't there.
He never returned back.
No, he never returned there.
So, obviously this is playing really heavy on George and Jenny at the moment.
Mm.
You know, like they're coming to loose ends. The
Mm.
private investigator they've just hired ain't coming back.
No.
They've lost money. But then you can't put a price on your children.
No.
So at this point, George and Jenny set up a billboard on Route 16 advertising what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Advertised there was a fire. Advertised apparently the fire chief put it down to an electrical fault. It was not.
Mm-hmm.
They literally broadcasted the whole event of what the fire chief said, the coroner's report, how the bones weren't found, and remarkably enough, this billboard stayed up for 40 years. And loads of people were obviously contacting them at this point.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you touched on the photograph, I think.
Yeah.
So, it seems weird. It seems very weird that they never found their children at all.
Mm.
I mean, I also found out some other little bits and pieces. George's ladder, which he looked for, which was always next to the side of the house,
Mm-hmm.
was 75 feet away in a ditch the night of the fire.
So someone's taken it, locked
Yeah.
it.
He also checked the cars, and the cars had been tampered with wires cut and so on.
Yeah,
Right?
like to the starter motors and stuff.
Yep, so he couldn't start his cars if he wanted
Even
to.
if he
Yep.
wanted to.
The pineapple bomb, like I said, was ignored.
Mm-hmm.
The home phone was cut shortly after, before the fire broke out.
Before the fire broke out.
But the fire department said the phone line had burnt in the fire.
Mm.
But it wasn't. It was cut before the fire
There was
broke.
a clean cut.
Yeah. And like I said, the phone rang beforehand. And
Yeah.
like I said, they're checking to see who was home.
Mm.
They have to be checking.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a couple of theories and some odds and ends and some other continued bit of information.
I'd just like to say that
Right.
that billboard that they had
Yep.
erected,
Yep.
with all the children's
Yeah.
names and pictures on,
Yeah.
actually stayed up until 1987.
I think that is 40 years later.
Yeah.
I think it is roughly 40. And they were paying for that on a monthly basis
Yep.
for 40 years. Like I said, you can't put a price on your children.
42.
Yeah, you can't put a price on your children.
Oh no.
You can't. So they're going to look, basically. George died in 1969. His wife died in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
Only allegedly one child is alive today, and that's Sylvia.
Yeah.
She would have been 1 or 2 at the time of the fire, I think, if my mind works out the mathematical
Yeah.
equation of it. And she still continues to look for her sisters and her brothers. But there's been no help or nothing.
No.
Like I said, they had the private investigator, the phone line, detective going missing, and no one cares.
No.
That was another thing I put down. How can a private investigator who works for the police force vanish and no one gives a shit?
Mm.
Like, do they just disappear out of the fucking thin air?
No.
How does it work?
Well, if you think what he was investigating
Yeah, but I'm thinking
and who he's asking.
I'm thinking the police, where they got the private investigator from in the United States. They didn't go to their own police department because that seems like a load of shit, much like their fire department.
True.
But they went to another private investigator and he doesn't turn up and no one cares about him going missing.
No. That's what I mean.
And no one's mentioned how in that box amongst the rubble there was a liver and not a heart, and the liver weren't even in a fire. It was placed there. Like, can you
Still
imagine
raw.
George and Jenny's mindset? It feels like they're either being lied to, and it also feels like everywhere they go, they're coming to loose ends. I'd be doing my fucking nut. I would be.
Mm.
But like,
Well, you are.
like I am now.
You are now.
It's frustrating.
But no, it is. It's one of those where they just feel targeted.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, like one of my main points was the Sicilian mafia.
Yeah.
The Sicilian mafia have a habit of keeping what's close to them close.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like any mafia, really.
Yeah.
It kind of also feels like you said, there was a target. It feels like they left Italy, they were a target, and they knew their time was coming close, and they had to hide.
Yeah.
Do you think George noticed that maybe this life insurance salesman might have been of an Italian descent and told him to fuck off? Because he knew something fishy was going on, if your children are being watched.
The thing is, if a bloke of Italian descent, or even Italian speaking, did go to the house, even if it was a life insurance, he would have clocked on.
Yeah, but do you think this is why George was like, no, fuck it, I'm good. Like, you know, he must be a proud man. Do you think he was going to defend his family? Like, fuck off.
I don't think the life insurance bloke.
Yeah.
I think he could have been brought off.
I reckon.
Like, I reckon all of the officials of
that whole
town was fucking brought off.
I mean, the other theory I had...
Paid to keep quiet.
Yeah, the town folk didn't like Italian immigrants.
No.
So they didn't
And what's the better way to do than...
Yeah, they didn't want
an Italian mafia or God knows else what coming over and going...
But it's these weird occurrences.
I
can't get over it. Like, even when I was writing all this shit down, I was like, what the fuck am I writing? Like, why hasn't no one interviewed that life insurance salesman? Why didn't George or Jenny even go to... Maybe they did go to the police and went, look, we were threatened, and then they just fobbed it off.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah.
I reckon it was a long chain of events that led up to the fire, and that was it, and then they just didn't want nothing to do with it. I mean, right now it's unsettled. Even now, like I said, the daughter, Sylvia, is still looking for her brothers and sisters.
I still reckon that it's down to the mafia.
And do you reckon...
To be fair, it sounds too much like a hit.
It is a hit.
Like, whether
but there's no concrete evidence of the hit.
No.
Everything I've got points to that life insurance salesman.
I even searched, as I told you, on the mafia, like, basically the goings on.
Yeah.
It is well published, you can search by all means.
You can look at all this.
Like, I looked at them, and the only way that it even makes sense is to say that they left Italy. Certain mafia people left Italy.
Yeah.
To deal with family business, but it doesn't tell you where. It doesn't tell you when.
No. But
it just gives you a rough year.
Like, I mean, if the viewers right now and yourself were to put all these chain of events in process, the house was watched. Right? That's number one.
Yeah.
House watched.
House watched.
Right? The children knew the house was being watched and they told George already, right?
Yeah.
Then you have your life insurance salesman, who could have been Italian.
He could have been, or he could have been paid by them.
He could have been just checking out, see who lives there, see if all the family
you don't know
live
if
there.
he'd walked round to say, oh, there's phone line on the outside.
Yeah. He could
There's
have been
only
scoping
2 ways to get in or out.
Could have been scoping the place out.
Yeah.
Right? The pineapple bomb. No one gave a shit about. They just missed it.
Yeah.
The fire chief, inspector, and everyone else seemed in on this hit, no matter what it was.
All the officials.
Yeah. The phone rang before the fire. Daughter went running downstairs, all lights are on. No electrical fault. But she woke to that loud thud anyway.
But like, even as you said, like a loud thud, even if your electrics went, you would hear that loud pop.
Yeah, you'd hear the bang.
But all the lights would have gone off, because as you said, it would have switched, like the main switch.
I think I also wrote down somewhere that the fact one of the daughters woke up shortly after. Somewhere I wrote that down. She woke up.
Thinking it was.
She woke up to smoke coming into her room, and she alerted the other the other three that remained alive, allegedly.
Yeah.
She alerted them, and the other one shared the other room. So what I'm maybe thinking is, you have all these occurrences, all this shit going on. People seemed in on it. Your private detectives vanish. What do you think?
For me, I would say it was a Sicilian hit.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like a hit.
Yeah, right.
So you could have either, like, with all of those points.
Yep.
Like, even with the 10 points that we've just mentioned.
There's a fucking lot. Even the ladder.
That's what I mean. Like, the ladder, the car, the phone line being cut.
Yep.
Like
the neighbours can't get through.
Being cut, like this things.
The neighbours can't get through to the fire department at all.
No, it's like they've said, like, someone brought them off and said, you know what?
Yep.
In between, like, 11, 12 o'clock.
Yep.
Go and have a few beers.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It's just, like,
it sounds.
Get out of the room.
It sounds like it is, but like I said, to this day, Sylvia is still looking for her brothers and sisters, and she has no idea.
No.
And even though we've provided you with a lot of information,
it's still it's loose ends.
You
You get to dead ends.
I'm not being funny. You find a pineapple bomb after your house has been fucking set on fire. You're gonna go, excuse me, Mr. Officer, can you help me? I found this in the rubble. What is it? Oh, it's a pineapple bomb. It's homemade. Do you reckon this could have started the fire? No, it was electrical.
Don't worry about it.
It was electrical. These people in this town don't do their fucking job.
No.
And if they do try and help, they go missing. But why did... Mate, that fire chief is a sicko.
Mm-hmm.
To put a liver in a box and say that was one of the children's organs, well, heart, he said it was a heart.
It was a heart.
And when the detective finally found the box, it was a liver that hadn't even been in a fire. That chief inspector of that fire department, oh, I did it to bring them some closure. Did you? Well, they already know something fishy's going on.
That's just reinforced it.
Yeah, that's just, looks like all this shit has just made them go, oh wow, this is big. Like, why ain't I got children's bones? Why don't I have bones? That would make this piss me off. I ain't doing something. It's pissing me off. It makes no sense.
I still stand firm to say that it's the mafia.
Mate.
It sounds too much like a hit. They could have paid off people to go in the back while George is at the front.
Yeah.
Like, to take children.
Mate, to have that life insurance salesman.
That bang that woke the first one up.
Yeah. She probably thought it was Santa Claus. Oh no, pineapple bomb.
No, but she's come running down the stairs, correct?
Lights are all on, yeah.
Lights are all on.
Yeah.
So someone's been in the house.
Then the phone
or
rings.
some people have been in the house.
Then the phone rings.
Maybe that bang was them trying to get out of the back door.
Yeah, taking the children before the fire started.
They've seen someone running down the stairs. They've phoned up the house to make her stop.
Oh.
To answer the phone to give them enough chance to go out and get away.
Oh, and before all this took place, they cut the phone lines, and then they thought, shit, if the family have seen a car, they've clocked onto the car a couple of weeks prior, let's set the house on fire, give them something to think, like a distraction, like what I wrote down.
Yeah.
I win.
We'll hide the ladders so that he
75 feet away.
He can only.
They must have ran with that ladder. I reckon it was the people in the church, and because the children knew them, they went with them thinking, children are gullible.
Yeah, they will go to someone that they know.
Or
have something for them.
Yeah.
But then if they're asleep, they're half asleep, you know what I mean? They're not going to make any sound.
Yeah.
You know,
but it seems weird.
If you wake up suddenly with someone then clutching you by the thing, you're going to be like...
Children, mate, they're dozy.
They're going to be dozy. They're going to think it's either their mum or their dad.
Yeah, they're not going to suspect it was someone from a fucking church.
No.
It's the priest. I'm telling you.
But then we don't know if George has got family that was still in said mafia or...
Well, the thing is, people came forward and they said they saw the children in a car. So they definitely didn't die.
No.
That's our main conclusion. They didn't die. There was a fire.
And they were definitely taken.
Yeah, and there was a fire.
Where, we never know.
I'm still bugged.
I'm still saying they're back in Italy.
I'm bugged about the fucking life insurance salesman being part of the jury. Basically to go,
That's
house fire. That's what it was. Yep, well done.
But then he could have been placed.
Why did no one suspect him? Why weren't the police questioning him?
Like, if you've brought off the whole community,
yeah,
you know.
Well, what's your thoughts on this? Give us some information. We're lost.
It's definitely still unsettled.
I like this show.